Hello everyone, my name is YuYin, also known as the artist behind Etchr Studio on Instagram. I work between the two professions as a textile designer for the fashion and home decoration industries, as well as an educator for art and special needs students, including Down syndrome and autism. I love to make art to inspire people and raise the awareness of positivity and kindness. If you want to learn how to use lifting, masking fluid, and white gouache, and also how to create the atmosphere with some bokeh effect, then please join me. Let's get started. I will see you all there. Bye.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Etchr 30-minute demo. Etchr is an online art learning platform, and we work with artists from all over the world. And today we are here with YuYin, who's going to teach us how to deal with the surrounding water of objects that are in water. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. And if you have questions for YuYin, please put them in the chat in all capital letters so that I can see them better. If they're relevant to what she's doing at the moment, I will ask at that time. If not, I might hold off some of those questions until the end when we do our question and answer session. And just so you know, we do have a Facebook group for people who've done our demos or our workshops. And you're very welcome to post work that you've done there, and you can share just for the sake of sharing, or you can ask for some feedback from your peers, as well as YuYin, because she's part of our group as well. So I'm going to put that link to that group into the chat in a little bit. And it looks like we have people watching from Tacoma, Washington, and Germany, Toronto, Bel Air, Washington, West Virginia. Welcome, everybody. All right, well, it looks like we are live and ready to go. So I'm going to hand it over to YuYin, who's going to tell us more about what we're going to do today. YuYin, it's all you.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Kitty. My name is YuYin, as you know, and you can see all my painting artwork on Instagram as in Creative Studio. So today, in this demo, I'm going to show you how to paint water and how to decide where you place your ripples and how to create a ripple effection and also ripple and refreshing in water around the rock. So here, as you can see, that's the painting I'm going to demonstrate. And for the next one, we are going to see here, this one is the painting we are going to do in my mini workshop, which is coming on April 30th. So if you are interested, you can looking for the link to sign up for this mini workshop. In this mini workshop, you will learn not only the ripples, refreshing, but you also will learn how to do the bokeh effect background as refreshing in water. And here is another example, like I use the same concept for the ripples and kind of like a bubble around the leaf. And this one is kind of the swan swing, which is moving water. So the ripple looks a little bit different from the next one, which is kind of the leaf just floating on the very calm water. So you can see the difference between moving water and like a really calm water's ripples.
There's already comments saying that the blurry backgrounds are so beautiful, that bokeh effect.
Oh, thank you. So you will learn more about that in the mini workshop. Yeah. So today we're gonna just focus on the ripples and water refreshing and where you can place the ripples. Okay, so now let's move to the live demo here. So here are two examples I painted earlier. So I will show you how to use wet on wet for all the waters. And you can see kind of light, like white areas, which I will use the lifting out colors technique. And also here, I'm going to show you how I choose the reference. So the first picture, I took the pictures the other day. That day is really beautiful, sunny out. You can see the clouds, refreshing water. But since the water really calm, you don't really see too much ripples in this picture. That's why I bring in another picture, another reference. You can see when the water hit the rock, that's how the ripples happened. So I'm gonna use 2 photos as my reference for today's live demo. So okay, right here, I kind of add the different elements. Like on the right one, I added some underwater rocks so you can kind of see it. And on the left one, I added kind of floating leaf, kind of added a more interesting layout. And the leaf can be half in water and half above water, so make it more interesting. Now we go to today's demo. So as you can see, I pre-sketch and apply masking fluid on it already, since we just mainly demonstrate water. So usually I don't wet the paper all the way because I worry the paper might be dry already. So I'm kind of just doing the top part first. So you don't need a lot of water. And then here you can see I have a 1, 2, 3, 4 shades of blues. So I can write down the color's name, but if you don't have it, the same brand is okay, as long as you choose your own favorite blues. And the other 3 colors, that's how I use for rocks, underwater rocks, and the main rock. So just for your reference. So okay, now the first one I use, sorry, I use the lightest blue as the base. And before you paint, just make sure where the lighting is from. So based on the reference, the light is from your right top, that corner, like a diagonal coming in. And also, when you paint the water and the ripples, just make sure where is the direction of the water movement. So once you paint the water or the ripples, make sure they are all going to the same direction. So I'm gonna start from the top. Sorry, which is the reflection of the clouds. So even when you paint the clouds reflection, you still have to keep in mind where is the direction of water movement. So once everything going to the same direction can make the painting look more nature. And now I just use the washes and the wet on wet technique. And since the reflection is really soft, so I don't want any like a sharp edge. That's why I have this brush, which is a Quill size 6. So as you can see, I have 2 brushes on hand. One is with color, another one for the Quill 6. This one is only with water. So I use it as blending colors or maybe soften the sharp edge. And sometimes I also use it as a lifting out colors tool. And now since the paper is still wet, it's the best time to add another color, which I use the second darkest blue to add more depth. And as I mentioned earlier, every time you add the new colors, keep in mind where is the direction of water movement. And also where is the light. So I'm gonna keep the right side of my painting lighter than left side. So now I added a second blue. So you can see the edge is still kind of rough. That's why I'm going in, blending in, make them really soft. Since it's kind of refresh of clouds, don't worry too much about like a certain shape. When you paint, it might look different from mine, which is totally fine. Even for myself, when I paint a second time, the clouds still look different. So just let your hand flow, and when you do it, you will see how it goes. So here I'm gonna just make a more difference. Add another blue, make some areas darker. So the brush I'm using right now is oval wash, size half. It comes with like a pointing angle. So I really like to use this brush when you go certain details. Okay, now on the top, like the top right corner, you can see the dark blue, the edge kind of rough. So I'm gonna just blending in, make it more, and make it soft and smooth. So the whole background, since it's water, so I want to make sure everything is smooth and soft. Now we're gonna move down to the water, like more close to you. And I'm gonna add some darker blue later. And it's just me, when I see something I don't like, I might just go back to fix it. And since I like, the cloud, a certain area won't make it lighter. So I just use the brush to lift out some colors. There we go. And as you can see, the blue blending in the lighter blue very well since the paper is wet. So when you do wet on wet, just make sure the paper is wet enough for you to put all the different kind of paints in, especially when you use different colors. Here, blue, different shades of blue, they look still blending very well, but think about if you do red and yellow. So if they don't blend in smoothly, it's easy to see the edge, really sharp, like a big contrast edge, which is not what we want. Okay, now we're moving to the bottom. I use the second darkest blue. And also same here, once you're going down here, keep in mind the lighting is from the right side. So the darkest part should be on the left of your painting. So now I add more darker blue over there. And also here is now the right time to decide where the reflection of the rock will be. So we keep going down. Here is darker and darker toward the left bottom corner.
Hey, YuYin, there's a couple of questions. I'm sorry, there's a couple of questions in the chat asking what kind of paper are you using? What sketchbook is that?
Oh, yes. This sketchbook is from Etchr Lab. They call the Perfect Sketchbook.
Ah, okay, great.
It's a cold press, 114 pounds and 100% cotton.
Great, thank you.
This paper is really good. It absorbs water so well. And when you place the paint on it, it really shows the true color, really saturate. I really like this sketchbook. Okay, now I just keep reminding you, the light is from the right-hand side. And the reason I leave my paper right here is you can, maybe a little refreshing, you can see the water is wet. So when the water is wet, the paint might go to anywhere they want, but I want all the darker colors go to the left side. That's why I leave my paper to let the color and the water like floating to the left side. And now since it's still wet, I'm gonna add the darker blue to remind myself where the reflection of rock will be. Now we're gonna identify where are the ripples. So the brush I'm using right now is a size 6. It's really pointed, which is good. Like the tip is really pointed. It's good for the tiny, fine line. But when you press harder, as you can see the wave. And I use the Quill size 6 as my second brush. Just make sure I blend the colors well. Now just put more layers into the darker area. So when you do the ripple and the water wave, I usually shake my hands first because I want my hand to move smoothly and kind of just like dancing with your hand. So you can make a really smooth movement of your hand when you do the ripple and the water wave. So now as you can see, the basic layers is out. You know where the ripple will be, and you can also see the water movement. Now I'm gonna use darker blue to emphasize the darkest part on the left bottom part. So as you can see, when I do the ripple and the water wave, each brush looks different. Can be I press harder or you lift it. That's why you make the wave and the ripple naturally. So based on the reference, when the water hit a rock, that's how the ripple happened. So ripple usually happens around the rock, like an object in water. I think now this layer is done, so I'm gonna use more darker blue to emphasize a certain area right now. Once you finish the first few layers, if you feel like a certain area you wanna make it darker or lighter, you can do it, but make sure the water is still wet. So that's the tricky part about wet on wet and the washes technique. And I'm going to use the darkest blue to emphasize the refreshing and some areas of ripples. And this brush I'm going to use is angular brush. I don't use it to paint that often, but I found out it's really handy when you do lifting out colors. Since the angle, you can really lift colors around different kind of objects. And the first area I'm going to lift is around, like right between water and rock. It's the small details, but if you don't lift colors between the rock and water, when you finish, you feel like the rock is floating on the water, not like in the water. So based on the reference, or sometimes you go to the river or ocean, you can see the reflection between the rock and the water is so fine, like a very fine line. You usually don't notice that, but I kind of found out if you add a small detail right here, it can really make the painting different. So this technique, you can use it for different objects, not just rock. It can be flowers, can be your hand or your foot in the water. So just really small detail, but once you use it, you will see it really make the whole painting different. So for here, you don't need to leave out too much colors out, just a little bit. And now we're gonna leave out some colors for the ripple. As you can see, this angular brush, when I turn, in the beginning kind of thinner, but once you turn the brush, you can make a really pretty angle, really smooth. And then once you press harder, the brush becomes like a wider. Like right here, when you see the brush moving from fine to whole area. It's not like you use a flat brush, it might be just one line, but with angular brush, you can really make it different. Like here, I use the pointing part for the fine line, and then once you go to like a turning point, you press harder, that's a whole ripple coming out. And then when I'm lifting colors, the best time to do it is the paper is still wet. So it's not going to be like a really high contrast white line over there. So little tiny in between. And you can see this brush, you can really go really fine line. That's why I like this brush a lot. So when I press harder, you can see I leave out more colors out. So now it's time to add the kind of the darkest blue to emphasize the refreshing under. So when you add the darkest blue, make sure to avoid the area that we just leave out colors. And then when you do the refreshing of rock, you don't do the whole area. It's kind of like you can see kind of fine line here, lighting there. You kind of leave some area light blue to going through. Since the water is moving, so the shadow is not going to all the way, the whole blocking area. And then when you do the refreshing, make sure your brush also moving to the same direction as ripple. So that way you can make your refresh more natural. So as you can see, this Quill size 6 brush, I use it again. So I have no colors on this brush, it's only water. So I kind of carry out some colors from the darker area, just carry out around. And now I'm just coming to fix the lifting colors area, since there's some darker blue going in that area. So I just keep adding the darker blue as a reflection. Again, this brush, Quill size 6, no color, just water. Carry out some colors around. And now we're gonna emphasize more of the ripples. So certain area, I'm gonna use a darker blue. So the darker area usually not go all the way around due to the movement of water. That's why I don't have the whole line, kind of like a dash. I do the dash line first. And I use another brush going to make the edge smooth, kind of blending in the original colors. But don't use too much water on this brush because you don't want to pick up some colors from the first, second layers. You kind of just blending in but not lifting some colors from previous layers. So how much water you put on this brush is very important. Sometimes too much water, you just leave out some colors from before. And now I'm kind of go back in to leave out more colors for the ribbon. And the same thing, based on the lighting from the right side, certain area will be lighter. That's why I leave out more colors in certain area. And the darker area is on the right side, left side. So I'm gonna go back and add more darker blue in certain area. So when you do your own painting, you try it at home, you can add some bluish, greenish blue to make it different based on the reference. And here, today I only use only blues for the demonstration. So same thing, I kind of smooth out certain area and also extend the ribbon to the right side. And still kind of double check where's the lighting from and make sure the darkest area and the lightings, they match. So even in the darkest area, when the water moving, you still can see some reflection from the light in the darkest area. That's why I go in to leave out some colors from the darkest area. And same thing, this brush only has water. And every time you can see I leave colors once and then kind of wash, just make sure I don't carry too much colors to certain areas that I don't want to. So I go back to make sure the lightest area are white enough. And now you can kind of see the water moving and the ripples. Okay, that's basically for today's demo. And as I mentioned earlier, this painting on the screen, we will do it in my mini workshop. So here, I will show you not only the ripples refreshing, but I will also show you how to do the soft bouquet refreshing in water background, and also the basic ideas how to paint this maple leaf. So once you have this basic technique and ideas, you can apply this to different kind of areas of your painting. So hopefully those information helps. If you have any question, I think now is your time to bring it up.
Yes, so if anybody has questions, please put them in the chat. And just so that you know, the mini workshop is a 90-minute class that is a step-by-step tutorial. And as YuYin said, you're going to learn a lot more about her techniques there. And if you can't attend live, then you can watch the recording later, so not to worry about that. And then also, it's a wonderful way to support YuYin and her work. So let's see. Any questions here? Oh, and the class is on April 30th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's see, there's a request to see the final painting again. So let me go back a little bit here. Back up a little bit. There we go. Let me pause there. Okay. All right. I'm not seeing any questions coming up, just thank yous. Fabulous demo.
Hopefully you all understand like all the tips I show here. So basically just make sure the paper is wet enough for you to keep adding different layers. And when you're lifting colors, just choose the angular brush. Even just flat is fine as well. And when you do the darkest area, make sure where's the lighting. I think that's the basic few tips for you to take away from this live demo?
Oh, and you know what? There actually was a question earlier in reference,
Mm-hmm.
I think it has to do with your paper as well, just mentioning how the paper dries out so quickly. Do you have any tips for keeping it wet enough to keep working?
Okay, for me, first question is, what kind of paper you use? Are you using 300, like 140 pounds cold press, 100% cotton paper? Because I feel like that kind of paper can really hold on water long enough for me to finish the whole demo, like a half hour. At least 20 minutes, the paper is still wet enough. So first thing, check what kind of paper you use. And the second, when you apply water on the paper, make sure what kind of brush should I use. If you use a synthetic brush, that might not hold on too much water. But if you use a quill, like the one I use in this demo, that one usually carry enough water, just one layer. As you see, I only apply water for one layer. It can hold on until I finish the part I want to paint. So my suggestion is check your paper and what kind of brush that you use to apply water. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Lots of good tips today. And let's see. Is there any more questions? Well, while waiting to see if there are any more questions, I have put a link to our survey into the chat. We would love to hear what you thought about today's class so that we can keep bringing you content that you enjoy. And also, if you were painting along or if you decide to do this later, we would love to see what you've done. So I put the Instagram tags for YuYin and for Etchr Studio into the chat. And once again, the link to our Facebook group. In case you joined us a little bit later, the Facebook group is a wonderful place to share your work. You can also request feedback there if you would like some. And YuYin is part of that group, so she can give you some feedback too as well. Okay, let's see.
Oh, I see one question about the masking fluid.
Yes, when you remove the masking fluid, you will use the yellow and earth tones for the rock?
Yes. So once I remove the masking fluid, the area will be pure white of paper. And from the screen, you will see there are 3 colors below blue. That's how I use those colors for the rock.
Great.
And I think, not sure they can see the final work, how I paint the rock. Can we find a picture with rock?
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, that's the color I used to paint the rock. And then the darkest part, I bring a little bit blue into it, just kind of coherence between rock and the water.
Great. And by the way, everybody, if you would like to see the colors that YuYin was using today, there are swatches with the reference photo. So I did put that link in the chat, but you can also find that link down below in the description of the video. All right, well, I don't think we have any more questions. So once again, I'm going to put the link to YuYin's class into the chat. There we go. And again, that is on April 30th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, well, I guess we can go ahead and wrap up and say goodbye. Everybody, we do these free live demos several times a week, so please do subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date and be alerted to when we do go live. We also have our Make More Art podcast, which is interviews with some of our artists, which is kind of a fun thing to listen to while you're painting or drawing, just for a little bit of inspiration. And thank you so much, YuYin. This was really wonderful. Lots of fabulous tips. Really looking forward to the 90-minute class. Any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for everyone come join me, and it's really my pleasure to share all the tips I have with you. So hopefully I will see most of you in my mini workshop, then we just paint together.
Great. Yay. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. And until we see you next time, make more art. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.